All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Reverend, would you lead us
Absolutely.
in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, here we go. All set? Okay. All right. So everybody's present. Just working? Yeah. All right. So trust everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent around by Doreen in advance in the meeting. So if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Did somebody else move?
I think two people.
Okay, all right, all right. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. The minutes from, excuse me, the May meeting are approved. Anybody from the public like to address the board on agenda items listed on the agenda? For the newcomers, this is not your only time to address the board, but just for items listed on the agenda. Okay, let's move to the next item on the agenda. Our motions. First is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison, 22-3032. Again, I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review all the payables which were circulated in advance of the meeting. And if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next item on the agenda concerns reports, and the first report will be from our controller, Gere DeBilio.
Yes, George.
Thank you. Controller's report of the prison, inmate, and canteen accounts for May of 2022. The Controller's office reviewed the prison, inmate, and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the prison business office for the month of May 2022 and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. During the month of May 2022, the amount paid from the canteen account for expenses which benefit county inmates was $74,903.07. Those items are itemized on the attached report. The balance in the inmate account was $478,510.74 as of May 31st of 2022. The balance in the canteen checking account was $838,003.49 as of May 31st of 2022. And in addition, as of May 31st, the canteen account owned two certificates of deposit, one valued at $15,000 even, and the other at $132,354.58, totaling $147,354.58. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. DeBilio. Any questions for the controller? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The report is approved. Thank you, Mr. DeBilio. Next, we'll get our Community Corrections Center report from the director, Norman McConaughey. Norm?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a house arrest report for the month of May. Program totals. Adult house arrest had 167 participants. Juvenile had 18. Programs revenue, adult house arrest had $64,885.73. Juvenile had $3,510 for a total of $68,395.73. Year-to-date totals for both is $305,303.61. The program's expenses were $69,557.27. Program completions were 40, violations were 11. Outstanding warrants, 1 for work release and 1 for house arrest. In the budget overall report, overtime's at 28%, expenses at 38%, and revenues at 46%. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Norm. Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Norm. And next, we'll get the Warden's Report.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for May 2022 was 732 inmates. 555 were county inmates. For the month of May, we averaged 637 adult males, 2 juvenile males, and 94 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 177. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. Our staffing update, currently on shift, we have 170 full-time officers. We have 5 who are out on workers' comp, none out on continuous FMLA, but 58 with intermittent FMLA. We have 2 on administrative leave, and we have 3 full-time vacancies for a total of 180 full-time officers. And just so everyone knows, we just started that new class of 7. They're counted in there with that 170. We have a new class of 7, 6 of them full-time, 1 part-time that started today. Budget as of May 31st, revenue was at 44% and expenses were at 41%. Staff salary is only at 30%, but overtime is at 43%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 4 occurrences in May. On May 13th, a fight occurred between 2 inmates. One of the combatants took several severe blows to the head and then fell into the cinder block wall, hitting his head. This individual's conditions began decompensating, and he began to slip in and out of consciousness. He was transported to the CMC hospital, and he was ultimately placed on life-supporting equipment. The hospital officially declared this individual as deceased on 6/1/22, and the coroner's office has ruled it as a homicide. On 5/22, a female inmate became non-compliant with staff orders, and the situation escalated to the point where she became physically combative. Staff were able to place her on the floor in an attempt to cuff her. However, she then began hitting her head off of the floor. A decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for the safety of everyone involved. On 5/27, a fight occurred between 2 female offenders. Responding staff dispersed OC spray in an attempt to break the fight up. One of the combatants was transferred to the medical department for treatment. The other was placed in the emergency restraint chair due to continuing aggressive behavior. Also on 5/27, one of our special handling inmates was non-compliant with staff's efforts to get him to stop destroying property. Staff used OC spray to gain his compliance and then placed him in the emergency response restraint chair for his safety and the safety of all involved. PREA, there were 2 PREA investigations completed in the month of May. Both were allegations of inmate on inmate sexual contact. One resulted in a determination of unfounded, and the other was deemed founded. The results of both investigations were forwarded to the district attorney's office. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Warden. Any questions for the Warden?
Warden, you said there's 2 administrative leave or only 1?
There are 2 officers on administrative leave.
And the 7 officers, you said are included in your active, they just filled vacancies?
Yes.
Is their training complete?
No, they just started that today, and it's a 4-week course, so they
Okay.
won't be on shift until next month.
Okay. And you have 3 full-time vacancies.
Yes.
Okay. Looking for people for that, or?
Yeah, I believe our Human Resources Department has not taken down the ad for officers.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for the warden?
Warden, the fight that occurred resulting in, thank you. The fight that occurred resulting in one inmate being deceased, I'm assuming that staff were able to get involved quickly after the occurrence began?
Yes, it was less than a half a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess the matter was referred to the DA's office too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the warden's report.
Motion.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, at this time, a couple things. We need to go into executive session. We had an executive session last week, and we were not able to finish our discussion on some personnel matters because it ran up against the election board meeting at noon. So, I indicated at that time that we'd reconvene in executive session. So I'd like to do that right now because it involves the warden and he was finishing his report. So we would ask everybody to step outside, please.
Anonymity. If you need more clarification, I'll be more than happy to clarify, but there were 2 correctional officers that I had been seeking a vote for our recommendation of termination of those 2 individuals. If you need me to clarify anything regarding either one, let me know. I just don't want to violate anybody's anonymity. Yes, both individuals had due process hearings, and those due process hearings consisted of due process hearing boards. And based on the recommendation of those boards, we were seeking termination of employment for those 2 individuals. However, one of those 2 individuals had an outstanding circumstance where there may be pending charges, and with that, I need to revise my recommendation, being instead that individual be placed on unpaid administrative leave until further notice.
Okay. So let's take the 2 terminations.
How are we gonna?
Your Honor, it's just one, yeah.
Record. Like, I think at the school board, they would give them like anonymous numbers or something.
Well, let's take them alphabetically,
Okay.
okay, for the terminations?
The first individual would be a recommendation for termination. He had a due process hearing. The recommendation from the board was termination. I stand by that and recommend that myself. And that would be Officer A.
Okay. And then the other termination?
That was the one that was not a termination. I was changing that
okay.
midstream because of those, that outstanding circumstance. I'd be looking to have that individual on unpaid administrative leave,
Okay.
pending the results of that situation and until further notice.
So on the first termination, do I hear a motion to approve the warden's recommendation?
Motion.
Do I have a second? On the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain. I apologize to everybody for my voice. I am abstaining on the basis that this board's policies and procedures providing and allowing the board to terminate individuals is in direct contradiction to the Home Rule Charter and County Code, which explicitly vests the power to terminate within the purview of the commissioners only.
I'm going to abstain also for the same reasons and speak with our solicitor about that and go forward.
In our prior meetings and discussions, the concerns and issues relative to the policy and specifically to the provisions of the policy at question, so.
Okay.
That's all we have.
Anybody else? Okay, so it sounds like the ayes have it. The next termination?
The third one wasn't a termination. It was, there's an individual who's been on paid administrative leave. And actually, we were talking about continuing on paid administrative leave, so strike that. The fourth one is an individual who I was seeking termination on, not an officer. And I don't know how it's to determine that, but if anybody has any questions as to who we're talking about.
Okay.
Is this for the due process held yesterday?
Yes.
So, do I hear a motion to approve the warden's recommendation on that?
Motion.
Do I have a second
I'll second the motion.
on the question?
I believe that.
Is that my
I believe that this board needs to rely on the warden and the board that he's talking about to accept recommendations from the professionals that work at the prison, that are solely responsible for the prison. And for that reason, I'll vote in favor.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain for the prior reason.
Okay.
Additionally, I believe that it's premature in light of the fact that we have not even yet received the report from Matt Carmody, who's our labor counsel, on what occurred on yesterday's due process.
I too am going to abstain for the same reasons.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, the ayes have it. Termination's approved. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you.
So now, anybody from the public wish to address the board?
I understand you guys have the report back on the investigation into Commissioner Dominic's key.
I'm going to address that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Will you
Okay.
be available for questions, though, after that? Will there be?
I'll address it in a minute.
Okay.
You bumped the Padre. He was getting up. You bumped him.
Sorry about that.
I'm Bill Pickard. At the last meeting, I requested if I have opportunity to visit the jail, and you said you would get back to me. And I did get a phone call from one of the representatives of the jail, and I talked to him about it. He said it was okay. I waited, didn't get a call from him, one way or the other. So I wonder what happened. You know, you said I could visit the jail or whatever, and then there was a change. And I just hear it because it was agreed by the board, and I wonder what's going. If I could please get clarification on that.
Warden, can you speak to that? Wherever, yes, okay.
It's my understanding that Father Pickard has submitted the proper forms for security clearance. I don't know where we're at this point. But I was told that he did submit the paperwork for consideration for security clearance. And that's where I know it's at. That was last week.
Last week?
Last week that I became aware of it.
Okay.
I'm not sure when he submitted that form, but I was told last week he submitted a form. And as of yet, I don't know. Yeah, and I will certainly expedite that.
Okay, all right. So, Father, did you hear what the warden said?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll, anybody else? Besides Chris Kelly?
Hi, thank you for welcoming me here. This is my first time here. I just have a few questions.
What's your name, ma'am? Okay, thank you.
I have a few concerns, a few questions. I don't know if you can help me. I don't know the judge, I don't know. But one of my concerns is the day that fight broke out, and when the man was injured, I want to know what kind of protocol does the jail have when something like that breaks out, if they remove the other inmates out of the clear? Or do the inmates, are they allowed to just stay there and witness what they see? Because if they're allowed to stay there and see these things, maybe some might jump in. I mean, I'm not saying that they did or they will. However, some can be traumatized from what they did see. So I think it's a valid point. I'm an education major. I don't know, the law, to a certain extent. But my concerns are just for humanity, period. If the other guys are not separated or told to move to another area until these fights can be broken up, a lot of things can happen. And then they're charged. They're put in this so-called hole, which I don't call it a hole, but they're separated. They're going through mental torment from what they saw, which is not their fault because they were never separated. One concern. I have another concern. My question is this: Does a client have to take a plea before he can be mentally evaluated? I've called 3 other lawyers, 3 different states. I know Pennsylvania have their own rules. These 3 lawyers told me absolutely not. This is what has happened in my family. Someone had to take a plea and understand I'm a mother. And this person had to take a plea to be mentally evaluated. Doesn't make sense. The lawyer that he's working with, no, let me refrain that. the lawyer that's not working with him. I have reached out to her several times. Right now, I'm not going to reveal names or who my family member is until I get everything that I need to get. I was advised not to do that. However, this person has been incarcerated for 12 months. No convictions. Lost his job. His daughter is asking me, when is my dad coming home? As a family, as her mother's family as well, we tell her that your dad is working. And she keeps saying, well, why does everyone else dad works and come home? I am now going to counseling. I have health issues. The lawyer, I've spoken to her maybe 3 times. Very disrespectful. Will not return any of my phone calls. I get it. If you don't have money, then you get stepped on, per se. But we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and He's higher. He's higher. However, I cannot keep quiet. I cannot keep quiet. He didn't have any problems with parole. He had a job. Whenever they needed to see him, he was available. Never any problems. Never any problems. Now this new accusation, because of his past, which he already served that time. And they are defining him from his past. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen. My other question is, does the medical office at the Lackawanna County Correctional Facility close at a certain time? I've called there. I was told the office is closed. Hung up on. Waited a few minutes. Got composure. I know how to conduct myself. I know how to talk. Called back. Spoke to someone else. I don't even ask who I'm talking to because they'll never give you their names. And there's a reason why for that. However, I introduced myself. A very nice woman at the time did help me because I had concerns about medications. And she connected me directly to the medical office. When I spoke to a nurse down there, I asked her, I said, are you coming back from break? And she's like, no. Like, why? I said, because I was told that your office closes. What happened to the clients that need attention maybe around the clock? Do they wait for the next day? And that was just a rhetorical question, but we did establish a rapport, and she was very nice. So, coming from the front desk, I was lied to. But I got the chance to speak to the nurse. And she said, Mrs. Reed, I'm sorry that you were told that, but we don't ever close. Wow. Makes you wonder what really goes on in that jail and with those inmates. And lastly, for today, my next question is, if a client does not want to work with the present lawyer, and he puts in a motion to see a different lawyer, maybe to speak to someone else to hear him out. Does that lawyer have the right to tell the client, no, you can't? You're not helping him. I know money talks. We already established that. I called and called, never got back to me. She visited him maybe twice. Painted a picture of it was you, it was you, it was you. He conducted himself as a young man, never had a problem with him. And she told him, he put in a motion because he found out if he can put in a motion to see another lawyer. And this woman told him, no, I'm your lawyer. When I found this out, I called her office, never returned my phone call. It's been a year yesterday that my family has no answers to any of this. But I will continue to have my voice heard. I will. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. It's been a year that he's been separated from his family. Had a good job. Had a good relationship with his 5-year-old. Even with the mother, and they're not together. But she supports him as well. And we don't have not one answer. Not one answer. And this is some of the background. But those are the 3 questions that I have.
Okay. Thank you. We'll try, and some of them we can answer. Some of your questions are more directed toward the criminal justice end and not the prison board. Substitution of counsel, that's not something the prison board deals with at all. That's the court. But your son can ask the court for a new lawyer, and it's up to the judge. It's not up to the lawyer. And with respect to requiring somebody to have an evaluation in order to enter a plea, when a judge accepts a plea, he or she will make a finding that the plea is made in a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary manner. If the judge has any kind of an indication that any of those are not satisfied, a judge might order an evaluation on his or her own, but not accept the plea, or certainly not make it part and parcel of a plea. But again, that's something that the prison board doesn't deal with. I think the warden can talk to you with respect to the protocol when there's an altercation on the floor or in the block, and what the policy is with respect to that. I think you got your answer about the medical office. Medical office is open 24/7. Sometimes it's overnight. It might not have as many staff to be there to answer the phone, and I don't know that there's anybody sitting there answering the phone. I don't know that that's their responsibility.
There was someone there, and I
Right.
was
Yeah.
lied to.
I can appreciate that, and you've made that very clear, and if you can provide the warden with, the date and the time that you made that call, we can track down who was there. Okay?
Thank you.
Warden, can you speak to the protocol on when there's an altercation?
Very loosely because of security-related
Right,
concerns.
okay.
But if there is a fight on the block, the first thing the responding officers do is they order all the individuals to get into their own cells, get them out of harm's way. And then they address things between the combatants. Doesn't always work out as cleanly as that. Sometimes individuals refuse to go to their cells. Sometimes there's multiple individuals involved in a situation. So it's all kind of case-by-case basis, if you will.
But generally speaking, the goal is to get everybody back in their cells
Yeah.
as quickly as possible.
And generally, the individuals that are living there, most of the time, they understand that, and they don't want any part of the fight that just happened or anything else, and they'll get back into their individual cells.
Okay.
Two people to a cell. And I was going to say, and I certainly understand and appreciate the traumatizing effect that can have on individuals. We do have mental health professionals that are going to deal with it. And the other thing I wanted to quickly talk about, you already touched base on it, the medical does not close. We always have somebody there. There's supposed to be, I believe, a minimum of 2 people there at all times. Now, I don't know what the conversation was, but there is office staff as well, and depending on what that conversation was, if they were looking to speak to the individual that would be the administrative assistant, and it was 8 o'clock at night, well, she might be gone home. And there could have been that. Could have also just been somebody being rude or uncaring about the situation.
Okay.
So multiple factors involved there.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Here comes Bev. Okay.
Bev DeBarros from Scranton. So much to cover, but we didn't hear anything in the Warden's Report about the chaplain. We handed in a petition, over 200 signatures. The public is very interested in the chaplain, getting a chaplain, and we were told that somehow hired. So is there a report on that?
Sorry, Bev. Yeah, 2 months ago, we contracted with Jubilee Ministries. I reported to the board at, if it wasn't the last meeting, it was a meeting before that Pastor Wilfredo Medina is the full-time chaplain. Part-time chaplains are Pastor Tom Dugan, and we just pretty much cleared, not everything's not done yet, but within the next week, Pastor Mia Richardson, who's doing chaplaincy work down at the Luzerne County Correctional Facility already. She's going to do part-time and be there specifically for the female population. And they've been slowly opening up because, again, we don't have anything opened up, but we've been getting the pieces in places, And even with the Father Pickard thing, I'm going to be touching base with those individuals where are we at with Father Pickard's application. Because all things religious should be running through our chaplain.
Thank you for that. And this, I also wanted to mention, to bring to your attention that a former chaplain, a beloved chaplain, and many people here would know, Reverend Paul Gere. Well, Paul died finally at the age of 95, and I just wanted to quote something from his obituary that was in June 2nd. There was so much to learn about him. He was a chaplain at the Broome County Jail in Binghamton, New York, and rode with the Binghamton Police Department for family crises emergency calls. And that sounds like him. And he spent 30 years as the Protestant chaplain at the Lackawanna County Prison in Scranton. That's our Paul. His wife, Mary, called me and wanted to tell me about how he died. And when I told her that I was going to be quoting from this obituary, she asked me to share this with all of you. She said he died so peacefully. There was no struggle, nothing. The family was around. They didn't expect him to die at that time, but the family often gathered. I mean, they were a very close-knit family, and they happened to be there when all of a sudden Paul was gone. So I think that's a comfort to all of us who aspire to have a good death. It's possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Bev. Anybody else from the public?
I assume by this time, pretty much, Reverend Doug Postgate, retired clergy, everybody's got butt-itis. The backside hurts by this time. But 5 months in last year, I came before you and asked if there was reasonableness to hiring a full-time certified chaplain. And by the end of the year, I think it was the December meeting, there was pretty much agreement with everyone that that should happen. That's what I understood. I didn't hear any different than that. Everybody loves free. Somebody in here doesn't enjoy free? Well, Jubilee will provide services free of charge. Hallelujah, it's a wonderful thing. God bless them. They do God's work. They share the ministry that should be shared there. Certified chaplains are certified for reasons. I think I heard said here, you're the 13th largest facility in the state. A vast majority of them have chaplaincies. And so my question is, if you have 180 COs who are trained, who are well paid, should there not be one person who cares not only for those persons who are incarcerated, but for the staff and for the COs? Would there be a commitment to hire a full-time chaplain to care for disseminating the responsibilities and they would be volunteer chaplains. The others are volunteer. Can there be a commitment made to have that happen? I ask you directly, Warden, because it was my understanding that that was the direction we were moving at the end of last year.
With all due respect, I don't have any authorization for hiring or creating a position for a full-time chaplaincy. We would be reliant upon volunteer chaplains. Jubilee Ministries came along free of charge. They're in our neighboring county. They're in a bunch of other counties. I'm at a loss as to what the issue is. We have opened our facility up. We're slowly opening up, I should say. We're open to anyone and everyone, Father Pickard included. When he put his application in, we're running things through that. I'm just confused as to, it sounds like we have two different things that we're talking about.
And so I asked the board, was it an understanding that you had toward the end of last year that it was a wise idea, that it was an important thing to have a representative of God doing work at the chaplain who was responsible for other persons who were there doing ministry. Was there anyone who was opposed to that?
I'm not sure I know what you're asking. Do you want to participate?
I was asked that question first thing when I got up. Do you want the job? I do not want the job. I have no certification in that area. I would care to have, what I understood was that this board was affirming that was a very good idea to hire a chaplain. Now, I know there's procedures you have to go through, and by the way, I affirm that that ministry is going to happen there as volunteer. That's a wonderful thing. Absolutely. But I ask about the other. And I know the warden doesn't have the responsibility or the authorization to simply make that happen. I respect that. Board who will make that responsible decision?
But again, do you want us to appoint a full-time chaplain in addition to Jubilee Ministries? Is that what you're asking?
A certified chaplain.
Why would we need one if we have certified ministers through Jubilee?
They're not state certified to do what those individuals who have been trained to do that work. They're volunteers, and they're not even, they're referred to as volunteers, not as official chaplains. Is that correct? They're volunteers.
Well, volunteers as distinguished from employees.
If you have 180 persons who are COs and responsible and trained to do that work, they are trained to do what they're trained to do. A certified chaplain is trained to care for persons from all different faith relationships across the board and to make contacts to help them to have spiritual guidance or information. And that's what they're there for. I can't tell you the number of counties that absolutely have one of those individuals. But if you have that many people who are responsible for the physical well-being of everybody there as COs, good. But can't there be one who is responsible? Those individuals as volunteers are not, I don't want to say it, they're well-intended and they do good things. But they're not responsible, so to speak, at the end of the day, as a paid individual is. That's why they have chaplains who are paid. I don't want to further this out too much.
No, okay. You've cleared it up for me.
Okay.
So you want us to hire somebody.
I believe it's the thing to do.
I appreciate your viewpoint.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, now we'll, under members' business, I will tell the crowd and the media who are present, we received an initial report late yesterday, less than 24 hours, and it's so not everybody on the board has had an opportunity to review it and digest it. So what I've done is I'm directing anybody on the board or requesting anybody on the board who has any follow-up questions upon their review within 10 days to give those questions to our solicitor, Dave Salfinelli, and he will be in contact with Mr. Salima. If there's follow-up that needs to be done that's requested by some of the members of the board, then he'll do the follow-up and have it done in time for the next meeting in July. If there's no follow-up, then we'll release the report. Okay? So I get to say on the record that you don't have any questions. Huh? I haven't gotten through it. I'm in the middle of getting ready for a 2-week trial. That's supposed to start on Monday, but then I found out today that we're closed on Monday, so it looks like I'm not going to be starting it until sometime on Tuesday. So, if there are no follow-ups, there's 10 days for follow-ups. If there's no follow-ups, then we'll release it. Okay? All right, any other business from any other members? That's fine. So I'll entertain a motion, a conditional vote if there are no follow-up questions within 10 days on a motion to release the report.
I'll make that motion, yeah. I'll make the motion that we release the report within 10 days if there's no follow-up. If there is follow-up, we release the report on the immediate conclusion of the investigation and no later than the July 2022 meeting.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Any other members' business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? No second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. All in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. See you in July.